Hi everyone, my name is Elijah Cobb. This is our new podcast series, Mic Check with Elijah Cobb. I'm joined here with Mr. Bayer, and today we'll be discussing the classes that you're teaching, what they entail, and any advice that you may have for students who are interested in taking your class.
Glad to be here, Elijah.
Yes, so my first question is, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. We're getting close to the end of the semester, so things are kind of picking up. But today's doing pretty good.
That's great. Before I get into all the things I was discussing earlier, I'm sure our audience would like to know a little bit more about you. And one interesting thing that I found about you is that you're a musician.
Yes.
And as someone who loves music myself and sings, I think that's something that's really interesting and cool. So not only that, but you were in a band as well.
Yes, yes.
So tell me about that.
The band was the Raving Knaves. You heard their music at the top of the broadcast. We were together from about 2007 to 2015. It was me and a couple of other fellows, a guitar player and a drummer. And we kind of came together from the remains of some other bands like Syntax and Boxcar Bertha. But we were active again through the from 2007 to 2015. We put out like 2 CDs. So we played all over the place. We played Blind Tiger, a variety of like the Flatiron, a variety of clubs around Greensboro. I don't think we ever made it up to Eden though.
And you're still a band today?
No, that band broke up in 2015. I haven't really been playing as much here lately. I was playing with a fellow named Josh Watson, but we kind of dialed it back because the pandemic kind of slowed things down. They haven't really quite caught up again. So,
Well, how did you discover your passion for music?
well, I've always liked music. I remember as a kid listening to the Armed Forces radio and when we were stationed in Germany, hearing bands like the Doobie Brothers and ABBA and things like that. So I've always liked music. I always listened to the radio. And when I was a teenager, I got a bass guitar and amplifier for Christmas one year, and so I started playing. I put together a band with my brother and another guy. My brother playing the drums, and that was kind of the beginning of it. We played around Sanford, my hometown. Also got out of town a few times. I actually came up to Greensboro back in '88 and played at this place called Hot Tamales. So that's where my history with Greensboro kind of begins back then. So
That's very interesting. In addition to being a musician, you also briefly worked in journalism.
yes,
right?
yes.
So can you tell me about that as well?
Well, I got into journalism. I was involved in this volunteer paper called the Greensboro Gazette in Greensboro back in the mid-'90s. And I kind of moved from that to like the Eden Daily News, believe it or not. I got a job up here at the Eden Daily News in 1999, 2000. I don't think the Eden Daily News is around anymore.
I'm from Eden, and I haven't heard it.
Well, it was the local newspaper. I worked there for about a year, and then I went back to Greensboro and started working at the Carolina Peacemaker. I worked there for about 6 years. I received some NC Press Association Journalism Awards for investigative reporting and best photo page, some things like that. So I worked there for about 6 years.
That's very interesting because I'm also looking to go into that field one day. So that's very interesting. How would you say that your experience in your time in journalism, how did it help shape your approach to teaching now?
Well, one thing that journalism and learning have in common is research. When you're doing articles like investigative reporting, you're doing a lot of research through forms and paperwork, and that's kind of similar to what you do if you're researching a presentation or a research paper. So there's that connection. But also there's the element of, when you're a journalist, you're interacting with people, and that comes in importantly for, the interpersonal communication class. And we actually do an interview project during that, so that allows me to give the students some help and some insight into how to do an interview from my own experience. A lot of the jobs I've had really find their way into the classroom because a lot of them involve interpersonal communication in various contexts. So,
One thing I have found interesting about your class is because I am a student in your class, is the fact that you allow for us to have many discussions, many, um, communicating with each other, and having an open mind to what others have to say. So I find that aspect very interesting.
Well, thank you.
My next question for you, um, well, this isn't really related to your job right now, this is more personal. But another cool aspect that I remember you have shared is that you lived in Germany
I did.
as a kid. Could you share some of that?
Sure. I lived in Germany during the mid-'70s for about 3 years. That's interesting, I moved over there really young, and when you're young and you're leaving the one place you've ever known, it really doesn't matter whether you're moving from, across town or to, across the Atlantic Ocean. It's kind of the same sort of thing. In Germany, we didn't live on a military base. We lived in a small town outside of it. So we got to, interact with German kids. We also, took the train on vacation. The train system was really good over there. We took a boat trip down the Rhine, visited a lot of historical places and things like that. It was really interesting, some of the differences. My father had this big American car, Torino, I think it was. We had shipped over there. So, every time we would drive down the street in this little German town, everybody would turn around and look at us. We had this huge, American car. And it was so big that you couldn't park it into the garage that had come with the house, because we'd pull in there and the doors wouldn't open without hitting the wall, because the garage had been built for Volkswagens and little BMWs and things like that. So it's really interesting, experiencing something like that at a young age. It was just this completely different culture.
It is a completely different culture in Germany, and another interesting thing that I've always wondered, I don't know if it's true in your experience, but when I think of someone in Germany, we usually think of people who are a bit stiff, their mannerisms, they're more serious related than us. Did you ever experience that?
I interacted with some of the German kids in the neighborhood. I don't know if it was stiffness so much; it was just kind of a language barrier. As for adults, we went to a few beer halls, and they were certainly getting pretty loose in there. So they seem to let down their hair a bit sometimes over there. So.
Well, that's very interesting. Did you have any a cultural shock moment for you over there?
There was, and I don't actually remember this when my mother tells me this. She says that over there they have kind of a different attitude towards public nudity. And she says one time we were walking through a public park and there were some women sunbathing, without the tops, and she said she had to direct me in the other direction or something. But I didn't see anything, so I guess it was all okay.
Wow, that's something.
Yeah.
You were involved in the Limits for Freedom exhibit that was shown here a few weeks ago.
Yes, I arranged that with Dr. Ann Parsons from down at UNCG. She wanted to show it up here because part of it involves events in Rockingham County. So I put her in touch with the librarian. They set it up, and it ran from about middle of March, I think just a few days ago, actually. So.
Wow. And that was your role in that?
Yes. I thought it was a good idea to bring. I try to bring things here to campus if I know that somebody's got something interesting to show. I think it kind of makes for a broader experience for students here and everything.
What particular classes are you teaching currently?
I teach public speaking and interpersonal communication.
And why do you think students should be interested in taking these courses?
Well, interpersonal communication in particular is really important in the workplace. We go over a lot of things in that class about small group communication, team communication, various topics in the workplace, conflict resolution, things like that. In fact, we have this interview project where you go out and interview somebody about a topic relating to workplace communication, such as communicating in high-stress situations or the use of humor in the workplace and that kind of thing. So you can learn a lot about what's expected out in the workplace as far as communication skills go.
Yes, those are all very important issues and very important topics that we discuss in that class. Do you have any advice for future students who will be taking your classes?
I think the important thing to remember is that you don't really learn anything without taking risks and making mistakes. So I think you should come with an open mind and be prepared to, kind of push yourself, take some chances, because that's really the only way to learn. Other things would be just to be organized, and also, it goes along with the communication. But whenever you run into a problem, you have questions about an assignment, or you got some sort of situation or something, let me know, because the sooner we can deal with that, the better it goes. I don't want people falling behind, by several assignments and then finding it impossible to catch up. So, communication is a big important part of it. Of course, that probably applies to any class.
And I agree that communication is a big aspect, because, the teacher won't know that you need help unless, you tend to reach out. And that's mostly on the student's part.
Yes.
So I definitely agree with that communication is important. What would you say to a student who is interested in taking public speaking or communications, but they're a bit hesitant to do it?
I would say that I know a lot of people are afraid of public speaking. Makes a lot of people nervous. But I would say not to worry about that. The class has people from all kinds of different experience levels, so you don't have to worry about it if you've never had any public speaking experience before you take the class. And I would encourage it, because it will help you improve no matter what your skill level is coming into it.
Yes. My last question, one of my last questions for you today is, what is your favorite thing about RCC?
It's laid back. I went to UNCG and I taught there as a teaching assistant. That campus is really like a small city. They've got their own post office, their own police department. This campus is a lot more, intimate. I mean, I see my students multiple places on campus during the day, whereas there, you might go all day and not see anyone you really knew outside of one or two classes. So this place is a lot more community oriented and a lot smaller. I think it's a lot more manageable for a lot of younger people than being suddenly thrown into this sea of 20,000 people at a college like UNCG and having to kind of find your own footing and all of that.
Yeah, I love that the college, as you stated, is less, amount of students in classes, and that can give, the student a more comfortable feeling with the class, and they have more access to their instructor or their teacher. Otherwise, say UNCG, where it's a crowd of tons of students.
Yeah, the smaller class size are definitely a plus. UNCG, in some of the 100 level classes, you'd have like 300 people in a lecture hall. So being able to take the class with maybe 20, 25 people is a lot better, in my opinion. So.
And we have a lot more access to things like tutoring.
Yes.
Is open, and we have the salon. We have so many wonderful opportunities that are free. Free of charge. So I really love the little community that we have here at RCC. One other question I would ask you is about music with your band. Do you have a particular favorite band?
Well, when I was younger, I was a big fan of The Who. Still am. Still am a big fan of The Who.
And what time period?
They were active 60s, 70s, kind of the classic rock era. So.
I was asking because the only band I really know of is like Slipknot and the Beatles.
Okay. The Beatles were contemporaries of The Who. Slipknot were a little bit later, but so.
Well, that concludes our interview, but thank you so much for joining me today and taking time out of your schedule to interview with me today. And thank you to our listeners for listening, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you.